A homeless girl saves a millionaire from a 937 million scam, but he promises her that if it's true, she'll get 5 million. Then when they discover the truth, something incredible happens. Comment what you think will happen and subscribe to my channel to support my work. The humid summer air of Miami wafted through the penthouse balcony as Dante Sullivan, at 30, clutched the documents that would change his life forever. The $937 million contract with Golden Rock Mining was right there, waiting for his signature. His investments in the stock market had yielded fortunes in recent years, and now the time had come for the biggest deal of his career. With his perfectly styled dark hair and green eyes that could hypnotize anyone, Dante was known not only for his wealth, but for the irresistible charm that had made him a legend in Miami's business circles. His inherent mistrust, built after years of family betrayals, kept him ever vigilant, scrutinizing every comma before making any important decision. "Mike assured me everything is in order," he muttered to himself, reviewing the clauses for the 10th time. His lawyer, Mike Flanagan, had worked on that contract for months, promising it would be the most profitable investment of his life. Golden Rock Mining held rights to vast mineral reserves in upstate New York, and Dante would be the majority partner in the operation. That's when she appeared. A small child, looking no more than 2 years old due to extreme thinness, burst through the balcony door, screaming desperately. Her matted brown hair, torn and dirty clothes indicated a life on the streets, but her brown eyes shone with a disturbing intelligence for someone so young. "It's a trap! It's a trap!" the girl screamed, running straight for Dante. "Don't sign that!" Before Dante could react, the little one grabbed the documents and began tearing the pages with surprising strength. Pages representing millions of dollars flew across the balcony as she continued to scream about dangers a child shouldn't know. "Hey, stop that!" Dante tried to restrain the girl, but she was as quick as a startled feline. "Who are you? How did you get in here?" "My name is Iris," she said, panting, holding the last pieces of the contract, "and you can't sign this because Clause 47B says that if there are environmental problems, you lose everything, but they already know the soil has been contaminated for 3 years. Dante froze. Clause 47B was a small footnote in the middle of the document, something he had skimmed over without paying much attention. How did a street child know about it? "You can read?" he asked, crouching down to her level. "I read everything," Iris replied, wiping her nose with the back of her dirty hand. "I have a photographic memory. I saw the men from Golden Rock talking about you at the diner where I sleep under a table. They laughed, saying you're rich but a fool, that you'll lose your entire fortune when you discover the truth about the land." Dante's heart raced. His characteristic extreme distrust went on full alert. But there was something in the desperate sincerity of that child that completely disarmed him. She wasn't asking for money. She wanted nothing more than to prevent him from signing those papers. "Tell me everything you heard," Dante said, sitting down on the cold balcony floor to be at her level. "And I promise you $5 million if you're right." Iris's eyes widened. "You'd really give that much money?" "If you save me from losing 937 million, 5 million is cheap," Dante replied, studying every expression on her childish face. "But I need details. Everything you remember." Iris sat next to him and began to speak with a precision that left Dante speechless. She described entire conversations, names of executives, exact values, even the bank account number where the fraud money was being deposited. Her memory was like a perfect recording of everything she had witnessed. "They talked about other businessmen too," she continued. "A guy named Ricky Almeida lost 200 million last year with the same scam. And a farmer named John Baptiste sold his land for 50 grand, but it was worth 20 million. Dante felt his stomach churn. If that child was right, he had spent months being deceived by one of the biggest business frauds in the state. But how could he trust a 4-year-old girl who lived on the streets? "Where's your family?" he asked. Iris's face closed. "My mom disappeared 2 years ago. Her name was Violet. and she worked cleaning offices. She said she had discovered something very bad and that we needed to run, but when I woke up, she wasn't there anymore. And your father? Never had a father, just me and my mum. Iris looked out at the city skyline. She used to sing to me before I went to sleep and said that one day we were going to live in a real house, but now it's just me. Dante felt something stir in his chest, a strange sensation he hadn't experienced in years. His controlling and solitary nature had always kept him distant from people, but that fragile child awakened in him a protective instinct he didn't know he possessed. "Are you sure about what you told me?" he insisted. "I am," Iris replied with determination. "And there's more. They said your lawyer also gets money from them, said you trust him a lot, so he's easy to fool." The revelation about Mike was like a punch to the gut. Dante had known the lawyer for 10 years, considered him one of his few real friends. If Iris was right about that too, then his natural distrust had failed him with the person he trusted most. The sun was beginning to set over Miami when Dante finally stood up. The torn pieces of the contract flew across the balcony like confetti, but for the first time in months, he felt truly secure about a decision. "Iris," he said, extending his hand to the girl, "you saved my fortune today. Now I need to find out if everything you said is true." "Are you going to send me away?" she asked fearfully. "No," Dante replied, surprised by his own answer. "You're going to stay with me until we figure this out. But first, you need to take a shower and eat something." As Iris held his hand with small, dirty fingers, Dante had no idea that that decision would change not only his fortune, but his entire understanding of trust, family, and the true value of wealth. The investigation that would begin the next day would reveal secrets that would shake the foundations of Miami's business power. And a 4-year-old child would be the key to unraveling one of the biggest frauds ever seen in the state. 3 weeks had passed since Iris had entered Dante's life like a hurricane of uncomfortable truths. The luxurious penthouse, once a silent sanctuary, now echoed with childish laughter and the sound of tiny bare feet running through the marble hallways. Dante had transformed one of the guest rooms into a true paradise for the girl, but she still preferred to sleep on the floor next to his bed, saying that soft mattresses made her feel vulnerable. "Dante, the man with the blue tie is coming back," Iris announced on a Monday morning, watching from the living room's panoramic window. Her ability to recognize people she had only seen once continued to impress the businessman. Dante approached the window and saw Mike Flanagan parking his silver BMW in the building's underground garage. During those 3 weeks, he had discreetly investigated every piece of information Iris had given him, and the discoveries were devastating. The lawyer really was receiving commissions from Golden Rock Mining, and there were at least 12 other businessmen who had fallen victim to the same fraudulent scheme. "Remember what we talked about?" Dante asked, crouching down to Iris's level. "You're going to stay in the room and not come out until I talk to you." "But what if he hurts you?" she asked with genuine concern. "Bad men always hurt those who discover their secrets." Iris's protective innocence touched something deep in Dante's heart. In recent days, she had become much more than an important witness. It was as if a piece of his hardened soul had been thawed by that child's purity. "No one's going to hurt me," he assured her, kissing her forehead, "but it's important that you stay hidden." Mike arrived at the apartment with his usual confidence, carrying a new folder of documents. His 45 years were well preserved, impeccably styled grey hair and always perfect suits. He was the picture of respectability, which made his betrayal even more painful. "Dante, my friend," he exclaimed, entering the room, "I brought an even better proposal than the previous one. Golden Rock Mining is offering special conditions after what happened with those documents." "What a coincidence," Dante replied, keeping his voice controlled. "I wanted to talk to you about that." During the conversation that followed, Dante carefully tested every piece of information Iris had given him. He asked about specific clauses, mentioned names of other businessmen, observed every micro-expression on Mike's face. With each indirect confirmation, he felt his stomach churn more. "Mike, do you know a guy named Ricky Almeida?" Dante asked casually. The lawyer hesitated for a fraction of a second, enough time to confirm the suspicions. "Familiar name, but I don't recall the context. He lost a lot of money investing in mining last year." "Ah, yes, I vaguely remember. Bad business decisions happen, you know how it is." At that moment, Dante was absolutely certain. Iris was right about everything. Mike not only knew about Ricky Almeida's fate, but had actively participated in his financial ruin. After the lawyer left, Dante found Iris drawing on the floor of the room with crayons. She had created a family of colorful birds flying towards the sun, an image she always drew when she felt hopeful. "Did he lie about the Ricky man?" she asked, without looking up from the drawing. "How do you always know?" Dante sighed, sitting down next to her. "Adults make a different face when they lie. It all gets tense here," she said, touching her own forehead. "My mum taught me that when I was little." The mention of the missing mother always brought a shadow to Iris's face. During those weeks of living together, Dante had noticed that she sometimes woke up crying, calling for Mommy Violet in anguished dreams. "Iris, do you remember anything else about the place where your mother worked?" The girl's eyes lit up. "I remember. She cleaned a big building with blue glass. She always came back smelling like cleaning products and complaining that rich people left a lot of trash in the offices." "Blue glass," Dante murmured. "There were only 2 commercial buildings in Miami that matched that description, and one of them housed the regional offices of several mining companies. And there's more," Iris continued, becoming excited with the attention. "She said once that she found important papers in a trash can, papers that talked about money being washed, but I didn't understand what that meant at the time." "Money laundering," Dante corrected automatically before fully processing what she had said. "Iris, did your mother keep those papers?" "I think so. She always kept important things in a special box, said they might be useful one day." Dante's heart raced. If Violet had really discovered evidence of money laundering and then disappeared, it would explain a lot. It also meant that Iris could be in real danger. That afternoon, Dante decided to visit the building with the blue glass. He took Iris with him, hoping she could recognize something familiar. The Crystal Building was a 15-story business complex that housed dozens of companies, including 3 subsidiaries of Golden Rock Mining. "It's here!" Iris exclaimed as soon as they got out of the car. "Mom always stopped at that corner deli to buy a pastry before going to work." As they walked along the sidewalk, Iris pointed to several windows of the building. She cleaned there, and on that floor too. She said that the important men stayed on the highest floors. Dante was mentally photographing every detail when Iris suddenly hid behind him, trembling. "Dante, that woman there is one of the bad people." Following the girl's terrified gaze, Dante saw an elegant woman of about 40 leaving the building. Impeccable blonde hair, expensive suit, confident walk. Clearly a high-ranking executive. "Are you sure?" he whispered. "Absolutely sure. She was at the diner that night. She was the one who laughed when they talked about you losing money." The woman got into a black Mercedes and drove off, but Dante had memorized the license plate. It would be easy to find out who she was. That night, while Iris slept, Dante made some calls to contacts at the DMV. The woman's name was Carmen Rivera, 42 years old, Director of Acquisitions at Golden Rock Mining. His research revealed that Carmen had bought a $3 million mansion last year, well above what her official salary would allow. 3 days later, Dante organized a charity gala at his penthouse, an event he always held monthly to maintain social appearances. Iris, properly dressed in a beautiful pink dress that Dante had bought, circulated through the party like a living doll, charming the guests with her precocious intelligence. That's when Carmen Rivera appeared. "What an adorable girl," she exclaimed, approaching Iris with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "What's your name, dear?" Dante watched from a distance as Iris spoke politely with the woman, but he could see the disguised terror in the child's eyes. Carmen offered her sweets, praised the dress, asked about school, typical adult-to-child questions. But then she whispered something in Iris's ear that made the girl turn completely pale. When Carmen walked away, Iris ran straight to Dante, tears streaming down her face. "What did she say to you?" he asked, taking her to a secluded corner of the balcony. "She said she knows who I am," Iris sobbed. "Said that if I tell anyone what I know, my mum will never come home, and that children who talk too much sometimes disappear like Mommy disappeared." The rage that took over Dante at that moment was something he had never felt before. Someone had threatened a 4-year-old child, his child. The next 2 months transformed Dante's life into an emotional roller coaster he never thought possible. Carmen Rivera's threat had awakened in him a fierce, protective instinct, but also the terrible awareness that his fortune and reputation were about to collapse like a house of cards. Iris, in turn, had become increasingly silent since the party. Her drawings changed from families of colorful birds to dark images of empty cages and gray skies. At night, Dante would find her sitting at the living room window, watching the city lights with a sadness that broke his heart. "Dante," she said one Thursday morning, "are you going to send me back to the streets when you find out I've brought too much trouble?" The question hit Dante like a punch to the gut. He abandoned the financial reports he was analyzing and knelt before the girl. "Never," he replied firmly. "Whatever happens, you're part of my family now. Even if you lose all your money because of me, even then." But the truth was that Dante was terrified. His investigations had revealed that the Golden Rock mining scheme was much more extensive than he had imagined. The company had used his construction company, without his knowledge, to launder millions in phantom investments. Contracts signed by Mike in his name, bank transactions he never authorized, a network of corruption that involved him even against his will. His stock portfolio was plummeting as rumors about investigations began to circulate in the market. The bitcoins he kept as an emergency reserve had lost 40% of their value in a week. His decades-long fortune was evaporating as he tried to protect a child who had saved his life. It was during this period of crisis that Dante met Bernice. The 67-year-old woman appeared at the building's front desk one rainy afternoon, insisting on speaking with the man who was taking care of Violet's daughter. Dante went down personally to receive her. Intrigued by the connection to Iris's missing mother, Bernice was a black lady of elegant bearing, grey hair tied in a bun, and eyes that conveyed decades of wisdom and suffering. Her calloused hands told stories of hard work, but her posture was dignified and determined. "Mr. Sullivan," she said as soon as they sat down in the building's luxurious lobby, "I took care of Violet like she was my own daughter. When she disappeared, I thought I would never hear from little Iris again." "How did you know she was with me?" "People talk, sir, and a street child who suddenly starts living in a penthouse attracts attention." Bernice paused, studying Dante's face. "The question is, why would a rich man like you care about a poor girl?" Dante told his story, from the moment Iris tore up the contract to the discoveries about the fraud. Bernice listened in silence, nodding occasionally, her expressions revealing that nothing she heard surprised her. "Violet was a smart girl," she said finally. "She worked during the day at a store and cleaned offices at night to support her daughter. But she always said there was something wrong with that building where she worked. Lots of important papers in the trash, strange conversations she heard when she pretended not to be paying attention." "Did she keep any evidence?" "Yes, she did. She had a little box where she put everything she found suspicious, said it could be important one day." Bernice leaned forward, lowering her voice. "But there was one night that she came home terrified. Said she had discovered something very dangerous and that they needed to disappear from there. And then she disappeared." "Not exactly." Bernice hesitated, as if deciding how much to reveal. She left Iris with me one morning, said she would be back in a few hours, but when night came and she didn't show up, I found a note under the door. It just said, "Take care of my girl. I can't come back now, but I'm alive. One day we'll meet again." Dante's heart raced. Violet could be alive? Maybe. And if she is, she must have a very strong reason for not coming back to get her daughter. Bernice wiped away a discreet tear. Iris stayed with me for almost a year, but the situation got difficult. I'm retired. I have little money. When she started to go hungry, I thought it would be better on the streets than seeing an old lady unable to raise her. The guilt that Dante felt at that moment was overwhelming. Iris had suffered not only from being on the streets, but from being abandoned by people who loved her, but didn't have the resources to protect her. "Bernice, where are the things that Violet kept?" "At my house. I kept everything stored away, hoping she would come back one day." The lady took a small golden key from her pocket. "This one is for the box. Violet gave me a copy before she disappeared." That same afternoon, Dante, Iris, and Bernice went to the lady's simple house in a working-class neighborhood of Miami. The house was small, but impeccably clean, full of plants and family photographs. Iris ran through the small yard, recognizing the place where she had spent months of her short life. The box was hidden in the closet of the guest room. Inside, Dante found a treasure trove of evidence, photographs of documents, detailed notes on suspicious money movements, even audio recordings that Violet had secretly made during her night work. "My God," Dante murmured, leafing through the papers. "She documented everything. There's evidence here of money laundering involving politicians, businessmen, even some judges." "Mum was very smart," Iris said proudly, observing her mother's careful notes. "She always said that one day the bad men would pay for what they did to poor people." But the joy of discovery was short-lived. When they returned to the penthouse that night, they found Mike waiting in the living room, accompanied by two men Dante didn't recognize. "Dante, my friend," the lawyer said with a smile that didn't hide the tension, "we need to talk. Some misunderstandings have arisen about our business." Dante gently pushed Iris towards the room. "Go draw a little, honey. The adults need to talk." But Iris immediately recognized one of the men accompanying Mike. "Dante," she whispered, pulling on his shirt, "that man with the mustache was at the diner that night. He talked about hurting people who asked too many questions." Dante's blood ran cold. The situation had escalated beyond business disputes. Now it involved direct physical threats. "Mike," he said, keeping his voice firm despite the fear, "if you have something to discuss, we can schedule a meeting at the office tomorrow." "I'm afraid we don't have that time," the lawyer replied, and the two men took a step forward. "Certain information needs to be clarified tonight." That's when Dante realized that he wasn't just fighting to save his fortune. He was fighting for his and Iris's lives. The girl who had torn up a fraudulent contract had unleashed a war against people willing to do anything to protect their secrets. And Dante, for the first time in his life, discovered that there was something much more valuable than all his money: the safety of the child who had become the daughter he never knew he wanted. The confrontation in the penthouse lasted only a few minutes, but it changed everything. Dante had managed to convince Mike and his henchmen that he didn't have any compromising information, promising to end any investigation, but it was a necessary lie to buy time. As soon as they left, Dante knew he needed to act quickly. "Iris, we need to get out of here tonight," he said, packing a suitcase with essential items. "We're going to a safe place while I take care of this." "Are they going to hurt Mom if they find out she still has the papers?" Iris asked, her big eyes shining with fear. "I won't let that happen," Dante promised, but inside his heart was breaking. How could he protect a woman he didn't even know was alive? They stayed in a discreet hotel in upstate New York, where Dante spent 3 days meticulously analyzing all the evidence that Violet had collected. What he discovered shocked him deeply. The corruption scheme went far beyond golden rock mining. It involved at least 15 different companies, moving more than $2 billion in dirty money. But it was Iris who made the most important discovery. "Dante, look at this," she said one morning, pointing to one of the photographs her mother had taken. "This paper has the same symbol that I saw on the wall of the place where Mom left me with Grandma Bernice." Dante examined the image. It was an official document with the coat of arms of a charitable foundation, but the numbers didn't add up. Declared revenues much smaller than the actual bank transactions. "Iris, do you remember exactly where you saw that symbol?" "I remember. It was on a sign at the entrance to a big building near Grandma Bernice's house. Mom always looked at it sadly when we passed." 3 hours later, they were in front of the Hope Institute, a foundation that theoretically cared for abandoned children. The building was imposing, with well-kept gardens and a facade that exuded respectability. But Iris started to tremble as soon as they arrived. "Dante, I don't want to go in there," she whispered. "There's something bad in this place." "I can feel it." That's when a woman came out of the building, and Iris let out a scream that echoed down the entire street. "Mom! Mommy!" Violet Santos, at 28, was unrecognizable, too thin, haircut very short, simple employee clothes. But her eyes widened when she saw her daughter running towards her. The reunion was devastating. Mother and daughter hugged in the middle of the sidewalk, crying convulsively, while Dante watched with a broken heart. Violet murmured words of apology between sobs, explaining that she had had no choice, that she had needed to hide to protect Iris. "They told me that if I tried to leave or look for my daughter, something terrible would happen to her," Violet explained later, already calmer, sitting at a nearby cafe. "They forced me to work here, watching everything I did, said it was for my own protection, but it was a disguised prison." "But why here specifically?" Dante asked. "Because the Institute is their central operations. They use the donations to launder money, create fictitious children in the records to justify non-existent expenses. It's ingenious and macabre at the same time." Dante felt his fortune collapsing with each revelation. But something had changed in him during those months with Iris. The money, which had always been his main obsession, now seemed secondary to the need to protect that family. "Violet, I have all the evidence you collected. I can use it to expose everything." "And risk your life?" Violet looked at him skeptically. "Why would a millionaire care about two poor people?" Dante looked at Iris, who was drawing on the cafe napkin, this time a family of 3 birds flying together towards the sun. "Because she saved me, and now it's my turn to save them." The following days were the most intense of Dante's life. Using his contacts in the press and his business influence, he orchestrated a coordinated revelation that exposed the entire corruption scheme. His own financial losses were enormous. He had to sell half of his assets to protect himself legally and pay specialized lawyers. Carmen Rivera was arrested trying to flee the country with suitcases full of cash. Mike lost his license to practice law and was prosecuted for multiple frauds. Golden Rock Mining went bankrupt in a matter of weeks, and dozens of other businessmen involved in the scheme were exposed. But the most surprising revelation came at the end. During the investigation process, it was discovered that the Hope Institute had actually cared for abandoned children, including Dante himself 30 years ago. The falsified records showed that he had been illegally adopted by a wealthy family who had paid a fortune to get a child without a problematic history. "You were also a victim of them," Violet said, showing the old documents. "Your adoptive parents never knew, but the money they paid fed this corruption network for decades." Dante looked at Iris, who was processing this information with her precocious intelligence. "So you also didn't have a real family?" she asked. "No, but now I do," he replied, hugging the girl. 6 months later, Dante had rebuilt his life in a completely different way. His fortune was smaller, but still substantial enough to live comfortably. More importantly, he had used part of his resources to create a protection fund for families threatened by corporate corruption. Violet now worked as the fund's coordinator, using her experience to identify other cases of exploitation. Iris attended a special school for gifted children, where her photographic memory was seen as a gift, not a strangeness. And Dante had discovered that true wealth was not measured in dollars or stock market shares, but in the family he had found when he least expected it. One Sunday afternoon, the three of them were in the garden of the new house, smaller than the luxurious penthouse, but full of life and laughter. Iris was drawing on the ground with colored chalk, creating a family of birds that flew together over a rainbow. "Dante," she said, without looking up from the drawing, "are you still a millionaire?" "Technically, yes," he replied, smiling. "Good. So you can buy me more colored chalk." And for the first time in his life, Dante Sullivan understood that he had invested his wealth in the most profitable application possible, in the love of a family that had found each other against all odds, proving that sometimes the greatest fortunes come disguised as small, dirty hands, tearing up fraudulent contracts on a sunny Miami balcony. If you like this wonderful story, please comment. Your opinion is very important, and if you love beautiful stories, subscribe to my channel. I promise to make your day better with my videos.